Hello everyone, my name is Jose Aurelio Fiorio Weberhofer. I am an independent researcher in finance and economics. In my previous two videos, I analyzed the determinants of the Paraguayan Guaraní exchange rate against the US dollar, focusing on agricultural prices, the USD and Brazilian exchange rate, the real, and interest rate differentials between Paraguay interest rate and the US interest rate, the United States interest rates. In this follow-up video, I extend that analysis by formally testing whether there is a long-run equilibrium relationship, also known as co-integration, between the exchange rate and agricultural prices. To do this, I apply the Engle-Granger two-step cointegration methodology using the same dataset shown on the screen. Okay, these are the dataset. Let me first briefly explain the structure of the dataset that I'm using. Here, column H contains the natural logarithm of the US dollar and PYG exchange rate, which is the dependent variable in all long-run specifications. Column N contains the agricultural export price index constructed from international prices of Paraguay's key export commodities. And here I have in column O the 1 period lag of the agricultural price index, which will later be used in other calculations. You can see is lag by one row. You see, is one row above. So the first step of the Engle-Granger methodology is to estimate a long-run equilibrium regression between the exchange rate and agricultural prices. In this sheet, I regressed the logarithm of USD PYG exchange rate and the agricultural price index. So the estimated long-run relationship can be written as follows. This is the formula. It's the logarithm of USD PYG equals a constant alpha plus beta times the agricultural price index. And this coefficient captures the long-run elasticity. This coefficient captures the long-run elasticity of the exchange rate with respect to agricultural prices. Although statistically significant, this relationship alone does not explain most of the exchange rate variation, which is consistent with my earlier findings that the agricultural prices are not the dominant driver. After estimating the long-run equation, the next step is to compute the residuals from this regression. These residuals represent deviations from the long-run equilibrium. Column T contains the fitted values of the exchange rate implied by the long-run regression. Is the logarithm of USD PYG hat. Then Column U contains the Engle-Granger residuals, which are simply the difference between the actual exchange rate and its long-run fitted value. You can see here the formula. H3 minus T3. Hmm? The second step of the Engle-Granger procedure is to test whether these residuals are stationary. If the residuals are stationary, then the variables are co-integrated, meaning a long-run equilibrium relationship exists. Here I construct the one period lag of the residual. You can see that one row above is lagging by one row. Huh? And here I take the first difference of the residual. You can see the formula, the residual difference. Huh? The residual-based augmented Dickey-Fuller test is implemented by running the following regression. The change in the residual is regress on the lag residual, including a constant but no trend. Excel labels this as a standard regression, but this is really ADF test for co-integration. Where the ADF test statistic is located, this is the most important value, the T statistics. The T statistic is the Engle-Granger ADF test statistic. It is not the p-value and it is not the R-square. The estimated T statistic is sufficiently negative to reject the null hypothesis of a unit root in the residuals. This implies that the residuals are stationary and therefore that the exchange rate and agricultural prices are co-integrated. I repeat, this implies that the residuals are stationary and therefore that the exchange rate and agricultural prices are co-integrated. However, the strength of this co-integration relationship is relatively weak. This result is fully consistent with my earlier multivariate regressions where the US dollar against the Brazilian real exchange rate and the interest rate differentials were found to be far more important drivers of the Paraguayan exchange rate than the agricultural prices. To conclude this follow-up analysis, we can confirm three key points. First, agricultural prices alone do not strongly explain movement in the USD PYG exchange rate. Second, financial and regional monetary variables dominate the exchange rate dynamics. And third, while a long-run relationship with agricultural prices exists, it plays a secondary role rather than a structural one. In future videos, I might extend this framework using error correction models to explicitly quantify short-run adjustments toward long-run equilibrium. Thank you for watching. If you have not seen the previous two parts of this series, you can find them linked in the description and in the playlist. Thank you very much.